there folks, it's Laura here and welcome to this video summary where we looked at bids by the overcaller and the advancer. So first of all, what we wanted to do was find out what an overcall was. So this is the first bid by any player from the side that did not actually open the bidding. So in terms of the bidding, we've got 4 players or 4 positions that might be assumed. You only ever assume one of them during each auction, and once you've assumed that position, you are that player for the entire auction. So the opener is the first player to make a bid other than pass. Now their partner automatically becomes the responder. Now if you were on the other side and you made a bid, you're not actually an opener or a responder. You're either an overcaller or an advancer. So the overcaller, that's the first player from the side who didn't open the bidding to make a call other than pass, and the advancer will be their partner. Now not all auctions will feature an overcaller and an advancer. A lot of the time you'll have what's called an uncontested auction. So this is where just opener and responder are having their conversation. So in terms of some examples of overcalls, here if North opened 1 club and East bid 1 heart, what would happen is that North would automatically assume the role of the opener because they were the first player to make a bid other than pass. That would make South automatically assign the role of the responder. East was the first player in the other partnership to make a call other than pass, so they're going to be our overcaller. And finally we have our West player, they would be the advancer. So the advancer is the partner of the overcaller. Now in our second auction, when North opened 1 club, East pass, South bid 1 heart, and West bids 1 spade, here it's actually going to be our West player who is the overcaller, and East who is the advancer, because our West player was the first player to make a bid other than pass, so they become the overcaller, and East, their partner, automatically assumes the role of the advancer. Now there are a few differences between being the overcalling side as compared to being the opening and the responding side, and these are just basically based on how we're going to approach the auction and what our chances of game are. So first of all, there's less chance of having game or the majority of the high card points. Now this is because we already know that one player from the other side has 12 or more points. So it's just simply that there's less for our partnership out of the possible available 40. Also, the opponents have already been able to convey some information about their strengths. So overcalling, it's a little bit different to being an opener, and we've got different requirements that you'll have to make an overcall. So the reasons that we might want to overcall, just because one player has 12 points doesn't necessarily mean that the hand doesn't belong to your side. So although it's quite rare, you still could have enough points for game for your partnership. So the opener could have 12, but there's still 28 remaining in the rest of the deck, and you never know, your partnership could have 28 of those points. The other reason is what's called competing. Now often when the points are sort of roughly evenly split, each side has about 20 points, it's a little bit of a tussle to see who can win a contract at the 2 level or maybe even the 3 level and be the declaring side. Now sometimes you'll end up defending, sometimes you'll end up declaring. And just a word of warning, having spades is the best suit to have here just because of where it's ranked in terms of the bidding. Often you'll get to, in the competitive auction where we're battling it out at the 2 and the 3 level, you'll often get to win those ones if you have spades. Now there's a couple of other ones. Sacrificing, this is an advanced concept that I don't want to go into too much, but later on you'll learn that sometimes it's actually better to bid to a contract and go down, so fail to make it, and you'll actually get a better score than if you let the opponents bid to their contract and make it. Another thing, we also like to disrupt the opponent's auction. So rather than them just having to get a conversation between the 2 of them, if we're getting in and we're trying to take up some room in their auction, it makes it a lot more difficult. Now one of the most important reasons for making an overcall is actually what we call lead directing. Now as I mentioned, often our side won't necessarily have the majority of the high card points. So even if we do make an overcall, we'll still often end up defending. And what we use our overcalls to do is suggest a lead to our partner so that if our partner has the opening lead or gets the lead later in a hand, they know what suit to play in the defense. It's a bit of a hint to them. So lead directing is another one of the reasons that we overcall. If I had to say what the most frequent ones are, definitely the lead directing, competing, and also disrupting the opponent's auction. And every time that we do make an overcall, we should keep one of these things or more in mind. So let's have a look at our different types of overcalls. The first thing we could do, we could simply bid a suit. So this is where we might overcall one spade or two clubs, something like that. We can also overcall no trumps for our side. So with our suit overcalls, now anytime you bid a suit as the overcaller, you need to have 5 or more cards in that suit. Now this includes even if it's a minor. So if East bid one diamond here instead of bidding one heart, they'd still have to have 5 cards in their diamond suit. So unlike an opener who might just have 3 if it's a minor, an overcaller always promises 5 cards in the suit. Now generally what your partner is going to expect that you should have is about 11 to 15 points when you make an overcall. You can have fewer, you can have as little as 8, and you can have more, you can have up to about 18 points. But generally your partner is going to expect that you've got about 11 to 15 points. What I would say is that the only times you should do it on less points are actually when a lot of your values, so your high card points, are actually contained within your suit. This brings us to our next thing, quality control. So this is one of the very few times in bridge that we actually consider the location of our high card points. Normally it's just how many points do you have across a whole hand. But when we're talking about overcalls, you actually want to have good points in your suit. So for instance, with this one heart bid, East would normally have quite a few of their high card points located in hearts. Normally what we'd say for that is you probably want about 2 honors on an average hand. You'd ideally like more, but 2's okay. And that's if you've got 11 to 15 points. If you've got less points, say you've got maybe 9 or 10, it's okay to overcall if all of your points were located in that suit. And on the flip side of that, you could also have more than 15 points, and if you do, you don't need any of the points located in your suit. So for a suit overcall, we need to have 5 cards in the suit, any suit at all, even if it's a minor. Generally, partner will expect we've got about 11 to 15 points, and we should have a good suit, and that comes in also for that lead directing objective that we're after. If we don't win the auction, if we're in defense, we want partner to lead our suit. The other thing you might do, you might overcall no trumps. So just because the opponents have opened doesn't mean that you might not have a hand that could bid no trumps itself. Now we slightly extend the range for no trumps, which is actually now 15 to 18 points. If you just want to remember it as 15 to 17, that's fine. But you can extend it a little bit, and the only thing that changes is that you need a stopper in the opponent's suit. So what I mean by a stopper is basically a card that you think will win a trick in their suit. So here, North bid 1 club. If I was East and I wanted to overcall no trumps, I'd need to have a winner or a stopper in clubs. This might be if I've got the ace, or it might be the king and another one. Even the queen and it's got 2 small ones to go with it. You're hoping the opponents can win the ace and the king, but then you'll get to win your queen. And our last sort of stopper is jack, and then you've got 3 little ones to support it. So the ace, king and queen, they'll take care of your 3 little ones, and then your jack will end up scoring the 4th trick. So just basically anything that you think you could win a trick with. And the last thing, of course, we need to be balanced to bid no trumps as well. So if you overcall one no trump, it's basically the same as if you were going to open no trumps. Now what we're going to do is have a look at bidding as the advancer. So this is when our partner made an overcall, and it's now our turn to make a bid. So in this situation, we're looking at what the West player might do. So the advancer is actually the toughest position to be in bridge, and it's because it has quite a few restrictions. Generally, if we look at the advancer, they've got 4 main options. That's that they can raise the same suit that their partner bid. They could also bid no trumps themselves. They could bid a new suit, or they could pass. And it's quite important to know what restrictions they have when they do each one of these things. So the first thing we'll look at is if the advancer was to raise their partner. So in this auction where North opened 1 club and East bid 1 heart, what we're looking at is when West would bid 2 hearts, 3 hearts, or maybe even 4 hearts. So the first requirement for making a raise of partner is that we need to have a fit with them. So we have to have 3 or more cards in the same suit. In this instance, we need to have 3 or more cards in hearts. Now the first thing, you'll notice that the points are a little bit different with our advancer than they actually are with the responder. And a lot of people get advancer and responder confused, but they're two completely separate positions. So here, the advancer, if they've got a fit with their partner, but they've only got about 0 to 7 points, they should actually just pass. If they've got 8 to 11 points, they could raise 1 level, so this would be raising up to 2 hearts. 12 to 14, they should raise to the 3 level or do a double jump. And then if they've got 15 or more points, they can raise their partner to the game level. Now the reason that these points are as they are is based on the requirements that we'll need to have to be able to make a game contract. Now if I've got 15 points as the advancer, I know that my partner's expected holding is going to be about 11 to 15 points, but they might have just a few less. So if I've got 15, generally we'll have enough to make a game contract, and that's where that number comes in. We're also going to pass with 0 to 7 points, and that's because we don't think there's a chance of game with our partner, and we don't really want to convey that our hand's strong enough to be able to make a bid. So the point ranges are quite a bit different to how the responder would raise, and basically this just accounts for the fact that the overcaller doesn't need to have as much as the opener. So we're trying to get to about those same points that opener and responder would have, but for advancer and our overcaller. So that's the adjustments that are made. Now another thing advancer might do, they might bid no trumps. Our requirements for bidding no trumps, first of all you need to have 8 or more points, then you also need to have a stopper in the opponent's suit, and you need to have no fit with your partner. So here we're looking at after North has opened 1 club and East has overcalled 1 heart, what it would mean if West bid 1 no trump, 2 no trumps, or 3 no trumps. So the first thing, they shouldn't have 3 hearts in their hand, they should be balanced, and they should have 8 or more points. But they have to choose what level to bid no trumps at. With just 8 to 11 points, they want to bid 1 no trump. And this will basically be telling your partner that you've got the majority of the points as a partnership, but you don't think there's enough for game. Bidding 2 no trumps would be telling your partner that you think there might be enough for game, but only if your partner's not just the weakest that they might be for their overcall. And 15 or more points, you could jump all the way to 3 no trumps because you're trying to tell your partner that even if they've got a weak overcall, you're going to have enough for game as the partnership. The next thing advancer might do, advancer might bid a new suit. So in this auction, for instance, after it went 1 club, 1 heart, pass, if West bid 1 spade or if they bid 2 diamonds, that would be the call of a new suit. Now to do this, they need to have 10 or more points across their entire hand, and they need to have 5 or more cards in the suit that they're bidding. They're also going to be denying a fit with their partner. Now if they don't have a 5-card suit, they actually can't bid a new suit. They must have 5 of them to be able to call the suit, and of course they need 10 or more points as well. What this means is that there's a lot of times that the advancer actually passes. And just to summarize it, anytime they've got 0 to 7 points and no fit, or if they do have a fit, they're going to pass. They can also have 10 or more points but not have a 5-card suit that they can bid, and they have to pass. The other thing they might have is 8 or more points in a balanced hand, but they don't have a stopper in the opponent's suit, so with this auction they don't have a winner in clubs, and they'd have to pass as well. Advancer does a lot of passing, especially if they don't have a fit with their partner. So that's how the advancer bids, and it is a very tough position to be in, so once your partner's overcalled, because your options are so restricted based on the points that you have. Now, after an overcall, it also becomes a little bit more difficult for the opener and the responder to conduct their auction. So what we're talking about now, not the overcalling side, but if you were the opener and the responder and the opponents have made an overcall in your auction. Now, if the bid that you would have normally made is available, what you can do is you can bid that bid anyway. So for instance, if I was the responder and my partner opened 1 diamond, if I was always going to bid 1 spade, I can still bid one spade even if the opponent overcalls one heart. So if the bid that you normally would have made is still available, you can bid it. The only exception to this would be if you want to bid no trumps, you do need to have a stopper in the suit that the opponents have overcalled. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you're the responder and you need to bid your suit at the 2 level, you always need to have 10 or more points. So this is for a new suit. If you're raising your partner, you don't need 10 or more points. But if you want to bid a new suit yourself and the only level you can bid it at is the 2 level, you need to have 10 or more points, or otherwise you kind of have to pass. And if we do bid no trumps, we need to have a stopper in the opponent's suit. So the auction does become quite a bit more complex for opener and responder if the opponents do make an overcall. And throughout the supervised sessions, you'll see sort of how this works in and why it is that much more difficult. But what I'd remember as a general summary is that if the bid that you've made or you were going to make is still available, you can bid it, and make sure as the responder, if you ever bid a new suit at the 2 level, you're showing 10 or more points. So you should have 10 or more points. So just to summarize what we went through this week, we had a look at the overcaller's bid and their options of bidding a suit or bidding no trumps. For Advancer, we had a look at how they respond to their partner if their partner overcalled a suit. I didn't really touch on how they respond to a 1 no trump overcall, but it's exactly the same as if a responder was replying to a 1 no trump opening. So if you're Advancer and your partner overcalls 1 no trump, you reply exactly the same as a responder would reply to the opener. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.